Wow, man, it was a really painful year being a Lakers fan, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not one of those crazy people who came into the season saying that they were gonna win the NBA championship, though I did say that they were gonna make it to the NBA finals and lose.
So I think the Lakers will get to the NBA finals, but I think they'll lose there. I'm pretty confident they can get out of the West. Definitely think they have the most talent if they're afforded with good health. I'll take the Lakers over the Suns, Nuggets, Warriors, and Jazz, teams that are the top four in the West outside the Lakers.
Yeah, that was an L take, but I'm not gonna run away from it. I said the Lakers would make it to the NBA championship. Obviously, they didn't even make the playoffs. Quite a few headlines for the season for the Lake Show. But first and foremost, we have to address the elephant in the room with the first headline, and that is the Russ situation. Now, it's obvious Russell Westbrook is not the same player that he was in OKC. That's obvious. Though he did not have a great year, I'm not going to say that this year is Russell Westbrook's fault. Like, he is not entirely to blame for the lack of success that the Lakers had. Coming into the season, I was skeptical about how good he'd be able to be because he would be playing at full health. He'd be playing with two other stars that both like to get to the rim all the time, and they're not all like great three-point shooters. I was interested to see how that would fit offensively. Already, the Lakers didn't have a lot of three-point shooting in their supporting cast, so I was interested in seeing how Westbrook would respond. And yes, he did not have the greatest year of his career, but he wasn't fucking bad. He still put up 18.5, 7 and 7 on really, honestly, solid efficiency from the field. On the offensive end, I mean, this was pretty much what I expected out of Brody, with him being the third option on a team that was fully healthy. On the defensive end, though, I can't really give him any credit there. Like, he was average in terms of on-ball defense, but he had so many lapses in terms of rotations and just falling asleep on the defensive end. That was really the only thing that really pissed me off. Like, offensively, he had his rough days where he was hitting the side of the fucking backboard, but I mean, he was doing that in his prime too. He wasn't the greatest shooter in his prime either. He was trying to shoot to make up for the lack of shooting on this team. But offensively, when he was getting to the rim, he was able to make a lot of great passes and play make for others. But defensively, he really just had a horrible year, and it was really visible to me. Moving to AD, I mean, not just AD, just the health in general of this team. AD only played 40 games. He had, I think, 3 or 4 injuries spread out through the entire season that didn't even allow him to play half the season. Health is nothing really to make fun of. Like, these memes of AD and his durability need to stop. Like, we shouldn't be making fun of somebody who's getting injured first and foremost. But with that being said, this Lakers team was not going to be able to have or to reach their ceiling if AD was only going to play half the season. He was supposed to be this team's best player by now. Obviously, LeBron is still that, but these were supposed to be LeBron's twilight years where he was taking it easy on the offensive end and his workload was a lot lower because AD was supposed to take over this team, and due to a lot of other factors outside of injuries, that hasn't been the case, but injuries also did contribute to it. Now, it wasn't just AD's health that was a concern, but LeBron only played 56 games on the season. Talen Horton-Tucker only played 60. Trevor, like a bunch of the role players that were supposed to be 3-and-D guys for the Lakers, like Trevor Ariza, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore, they all were injured throughout the year. Kendrick Nunn even. Not just injuries to the star guys, but injuries to the role players really derailed the season for the Lakers. Next headline, the team was just old as shit. Like, they were really old. I think I kind of looked past how old this team was and just expected Russ, Bron, and AD to carry these old guys to the NBA Finals. But I mean, yeah, just the age really just showed itself on the defensive end, and these guys would not get back in transition when a turnover was made. Like, Carmelo would just jog back. LeBron would jog back too, but he gets a pass. Dwight and DeAndre, they weren't able to have the highest motor at all times. Like, they just had way too many guys 34 years and older of age. Like, they weren't able to get the wheels turning to get back on the defensive end more often than not, and that really hurt them. We gotta talk about the Vogel firing. In terms of blame, again, Russell Westbrook and Vogel get a lot of it from the mainstream media, but honestly, like, Vogel had a bad hand to play with. Like, the team was old, they were injury riddled, the team just didn't fit personnel wise. So I'm not really gonna get hard on I'm not really gonna hamper on Vogel too much. I guess he can get blamed for Westbrook being somewhat uncomfortable, because Russ did say that about Vogel in the exiting press conferences, so he can get some blame for that. But in terms of just season success, like, there wasn't really much that any coach would be able to do with this team based off of the health and just how poorly they fit with one another. Lastly, we got to talk about LeBron. This dude is not human. He turned 37 this year. Yeah, he only played 56 games. Some of them were due to injury, but others were just, there is no point of him playing the season because the season was too far gone. In the games he played, he dropped 30 a game, 8 boards, 6 assists, 52% from the field, 36% from 3. Like, in his 19th year, he just had his highest PPG in his entire career. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. We cannot overlook this anymore. Like, this durability and consistency to be able to do this in your 19th year is crazy. So if he plays until he's 42 years old, I'm not even gonna be surprised anymore. Talking about these guys a bit more in depth, obviously we'll start with LeBron. He's still a top 5 player in the league based off of his output last season. Like, he easily averaged 30 points per game. It didn't even look like he was try-harding. LeBron's just ridiculous. He's still that guy. He's got 1 year left on the contract. There's speculation as to if he wants a trade or not. I don't think he wants a trade out of LA. I think he's just going to play through the end of the year, and I don't think he's going to... I think this will be his last year in LA this upcoming season, but I don't think he's demanding a trade to try and get a better opportunity to win a ring elsewhere. Moving to Anthony. When he's healthy, he's an elite defender, probably top 5 defender in the entire league. He's a fantastic number 2 option. We saw that on the championship team. He's a fantastic number 2 option on a contending team, but he's proven that he's not the guy. Like, he's not going to take over the mantle after LeBron and lead the Lakers to championship contention as the number 1. He's proven that he just doesn't really have that in his DNA. He did sign an extension, I think, a year ago, which has him signed through the 2025 season, which kind of makes the extension look a little bad from, like, the Lakers' perspective as a whole, because he's kind of injury prone and you're paying him number 1 option money, but he can't really be the number 1 option on a contending team once Bron is gone. So we'll have to see how that unfolds in LA. Next is Russell Westbrook. Still a high-level playmaker and slasher, though his explosiveness is fading. Like, he was still able to get to the rim and play make at a very high level. On the defensive end is where it's a complete 180. Like, he was probably the worst defender in the Lakers starting lineup 80% of the time. When he's locked in, he can be a good on-ball defender, but that doesn't happen all the time, so he just balances out to being average in terms of on-ball defense, and then he has way too many mental lapses when he's defending off-ball. So he has a player option for this upcoming season. It's $47 million. He's not turning that down. Definitely not. It would be stupid for him to turn that down after his value on the open market is at an all-time low, really. And there's not that many teams that have cap space this offseason, so he wouldn't turn down a $47 million player option. It's a poor fit with him, Bron, and AD due to lack of shooting. The lack of shooting from Russell and AD. Bron is still a good three-point shooter, but the lack of shooting from the other two from three-point land is what makes the fit really iffy. But it would be really hard to make a beneficial trade in the offseason. Like I said, because of Russell's value, you can't really trade AD. I don't think that's the right move because he's still a great number 2 option behind LeBron. And even if you were thinking of trading him, his value isn't at the best because he has a really hefty contract and his durability is not dependable at all. There's one main prospect on the Lakers, and that's Talen Horton-Tucker. His season was up and down. Like, he had some really high moments and some really bad lows. But his strengths are slashing, his perimeter defense, and his playmaking. Out the jump, even in his rookie year, he was really aggressive at getting to the rim. He had a really surprisingly good handle for the simple fact that nobody really knew about him in his rookie year. And where he got a lot of his minutes and trust to be out there from the coaching staff was him just playing hard-nosed, high-energy defense on the perimeter. He was a hound out there. As for weaknesses, it's honestly just his outside scoring. Like from 3-point land, I don't think he's ever really been a good catch and shoot guy, and he doesn't really like to create out there that much. And then as for his mid-range game, he doesn't really go to it that much. Like that's a very small portion of his field goal attempts from the mid-range. So it kind of makes his offense a bit predictable, and it's really what's limiting him on the offensive end in terms of development and consistency. So definitely his outside scoring is going to be what determines how good of a player he can be in the NBA and how much of an opportunity he gets from the Lakers. Like, is he going to be able to be the full-time sixth man and basically run the second unit? Some other guys to talk about are Malik Monk and Carmelo. We'll start with Monk. He was a great spark plug for LA. He was like one of the only bright spots in the Lakers season. Like him, Melo, and Austin Reeves too, low-key. He was one of the few consistent shooters for LA. He thrived as an off-ball scorer. He profited off running hard in the fast break. He had 54 dunks this season, and we know how athletic and dynamic Malik Monk is as a high flyer. This was his most efficient season by far, and his best season by far. The bad thing for the Lakers was that he was on a minimum contract. Like, this was the best signing for the Lakers in the offseason because they got this much value on a minimum contract, and he's definitely going to get some attention on the open market. As for Carmelo, obviously he's past his prime, but he turned into a great volume, like, spot-up shooter. We know that wasn't really what Melo wanted to morph his game into, like when he went to OKC and Houston, but he filled that role in Portland for 2 years and definitely filled that role for LA this year. When he wasn't just catching and shooting, he was able to take advantage of mismatches in the post. He's still a poor defender in space, which is another thing that held back the Lakers defense. Having Melo, 37 years old, and he's never really been a good defender. Like, he was playing a lot of minutes, so, put 2 and 2 together. Gonna be a free agent this offseason, 37. He still doesn't have a ring, and it turns out his best shot at one isn't in LA. Now, finally, looking into the offseason, the Lakers don't have a pick.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Surprise, surprise. They don't have a pick at all. All those picks traded for AD. I can't remember if they had to throw in picks for Russell Westbrook, but yeah, they don't have a pick. So, as for free agency, Malik Monk, Carmelo, and Austin Reeves are this team's most significant upcoming free agents. They're going to have cap space of negative $24 million.
Hey, yo, what the?
If Russ accepts his player option, and he definitely will. So you can pretty much kiss Malik Monk goodbye. Carmelo is still looking for a ring, so he's going to look for that elsewhere. He can't win that in LA. Or, sure, it's possible, but it doesn't look like the most likely spot to win a ring, so he probably won't return. Austin Reeves, he probably could return, but those other two guys who were really significant in terms of offense off the bench and just three-point shooting, as good as gone. So what the Lakers need, they need shooting, and they need athletic defensive wings. And we know they're not going to have a lot of money to play with, so we got to look at affordable minimum contract type guys. So I'm going to start out with Aaron Holiday. He's been playing in Phoenix this past season without really getting that many minutes because he's been behind Cameron Payne in that backup point guard role. But he's always been a very high level, high energy defender, especially in his time in Indiana. He's always brought the energy on the defensive end, and he's had good years from outside as well. Career-wise, he's a 38% shooter from downtown, so he's a proven and consistent three-point shooter. He's always been a solid playmaker and running the second unit in, not that much usage, but he's solid. And he's still 25 years old, so he kind of knocks out all the Lakers' needs in the backcourt for shooting, adding some guys who are still in their prime, so youth, and guys who can impact defense at a high level. Next is Damian Lee. Now, he's a very, very, very streaky shooter, so if you're kind of banking on him to be your shooter for your team, you're kind of rolling the dice there. But he's somebody who always flies around on the wing defensively. He always has high defensive effort. He's going to be turning 30 soon, so it's not like he's ridiculously old. But yeah, he always has a high motor. And he's definitely somebody who you can get on a minimum contract. So that should be somebody that the Lakers should pay attention to. Bringing back Lance Stevenson, I would love if the Lakers were able to do this. Now, Lance is probably in his mid-30s. Yeah, 31 or 32 years old, but Lance always has the energy. He always has the energy. He's not always going to give you the most consistency or efficiency from outside, of course, but he's always going to bring the energy and impact on the defensive end. You know you're always going to get that from Lance, and he thrives as a playmaker in the fast break. So he's another guy that can bring some energy, some vibrancy, some high defensive effort off the bench. He just had a really good year returning to Indiana, so if they don't bring him back, the Lakers should look into bringing back Lance. Next is Derrick Jones. Derrick Jones has always had the potential to be in like a very, very versatile defensive wing because of his athletic tools. I just don't think he's ever really been used correctly on the defensive end, whether it's been in Phoenix or Chicago for 1 year. I think if he can be put into the right system and if he can be coached by the right head coach, which, you know, puts the onus on the Lakers to get that guy, but he's always going to be a lob threat. The three-pointer is really inconsistent for him, but I think he's somebody that can finally fulfill his potential on the defensive end if he's put in the right system. Next, I have Juan Toscano-Anderson. The past couple of years, he's proved himself as a very versatile defender. He can pretty much guard 2 through 4, always competes hard on the defensive end. He's also a very streaky shooter, like career-wise, he's shot 36% from 3. But this recent year, he shot 32%. Kind of really just streaky. But yeah, he's always going to bring the effort on the defensive end. He's played in the Warriors system as that power forward and kind of as that playmaking power forward in minutes without Draymond Green or when he's not been available. I definitely think he'll be available in the offseason and shouldn't cost the Lakers too much money. Lastly, I have Serge Ibaka, who hasn't really been playing that many minutes for Milwaukee, though we know he's a very high IQ defensive center. Not going to be the same rim protector that we've seen in his OKC and Toronto days, but he's always going to be in the right spot, knows how to defend the pick and roll, and on his best days, he's a great stretch 5. Looking into the offseason trade market, we're going to be hearing rumors about Westbrook throughout the entire offseason. It's going to be really annoying, but I guess we can throw Anthony Davis in there too because we'll be hearing rumors about him, though I don't think he's going to get traded. Even fucking LeBron. Like, NBA mainstream media is just so annoying in terms of who they throw into trade rumors. In terms of targeting, like, I don't know what is attainable for the Lakers in the trade market if you're trading away Westbrook. Because, okay, seriously speaking, out of the 3 guys, Westbrook's the most likely to get traded, obviously. Or he's definitely the guy that the Lakers would want to trade. But I don't know what's attainable because, you know, his value is low and he's going to be making $47 million. Yeah, looking at all 29 other teams, I can't really reasonably think what team would want to take on Russell Westbrook or afford to be able to do so. So what we're going to do is look at Bleacher Report and see what they can come up with. Okay, here's an article ranking 6 realistic Russell Westbrook trades. Okay, this is as of April 12th, so this is a bit dated. This is literally a month ago. OKC's flexibility. So they're going to have $32 million, which is almost enough to absorb the contract. So they're not gonna put out a hypothetical trade. Okay, they're just gonna give out teams. Okay, so they're saying OKC, I don't really see it. Why would you want to take Shea off the ball? Why would you want to take Josh Giddey off the ball? Indiana veterans. Okay, this is interesting actually. Well, I kind of talked about this. I talked about how stupid Indiana would be to trade for Russell Westbrook and take Halliburton off the ball when you just drop 10 assists a game. I know you might want to sell on Malcolm and Miles Turner, but still, like, that's not making your team better. That's not going to make it easier for Tyrese Halliburton to develop, but whatever. Do they explain why Indiana would want Westbrook? If he can help Indiana clean up its books. What does Indiana need cap space for? They want to, if they're saying, oh yeah, take on a potential 1-year contract to clear up cap space. Why the fuck would Indiana want cap space? I don't understand. Help Charlotte dump Gordon Hayward. Okay, obviously yes, they overpaid on him 2 years ago. Clearing long-term salary makes sense. I mean, I guess, but it's only 2 years. Like, LaMelo Ball still has 2 more years left on his rookie contract. They're going to be able to bring back Miles Bridges because they have his bird rights. How does bringing in Westbrook benefit them at all? Houston again. Okay, the John Wall for Westbrook thing is over. The main thing here is Christian Wood. Trading away Christian Wood, but like, you're not going to get any picks from the Lakers. They don't really have any picks to give out. So there's no point in getting Westbrook for Wood if you're not getting any picks. A path to Jeremy Grant. Oh, this is going to be interesting. What benefit does losing Jeremy Grant have to bring on Russell Westbrook? You already have Cade Cunningham, who's going to be one of the best on-ball big point guards for our league to come. Why would you want to take him off-ball for Russell Westbrook? What? Oh my god. Mutual cleanup with the Knicks. Giving up Evan Fournier, Alec Burks, Kemba Walker, Nerlens Noel, and Cam Reddish. They don't explain why the Knicks would be interested in Russell Westbrook. They don't. They don't. Okay, you're not... Lakers are not getting Julius Randle for Russell Westbrook. That's one. And then they list all these role players to somewhat make up $47 million of Westbrook's contract. Okay, cool. But why would they want to give all that up for Westbrook? Why? It doesn't make sense. Another option. Oh, waiving and stretching Westbrook could be the better... Okay, yeah. Bleacher Report, hold that L. Okay, well that was just entirely pointless. Bleacher Report offered nothing of substance. So moving on to predictions, this is quite an easy transfer, or segue. I predict that Russell Westbrook won't be traded. I don't think there's a team out there that really wants him. I don't think, even if there is a team that wants him, they can't really afford to take on $47 million. So I don't think it will be possible for the Lakers to make a Westbrook trade. Coming into the season, I predicted the Lakers to lose in the NBA Finals. Yikes. Injuries derailed their season, Westbrook was never able to get comfortable offensively, and this team was just way too old. LA enters this offseason with very little flexibility. Westbrook, of course, should accept his $47 million player option, putting the Lakers 20-something million above the salary cap. That'll make it hard for the team to bring back Malik Monk, Carmelo, and Austin Reeves, and they were LA's 3 best role players. Not only will it be almost impossible to bring back their own free agents, it'll also be hard adding any unrestricted free agents for more than a mid-level exception. Rob Pelinka will have to get creative and be resourceful. He pretty much will just have minimum contracts at his disposal. Of course, there will be no shortage of Westbrook trade rumors. Some are just ridiculously unrealistic, while others have some substance to... Okay, yeah, I wrote this outro scripts, and yeah, actually none of them have substance to them if you look at Bleacher Report. Due to AD's lack of durability, he'll be thrown in trade rumors as well. Regardless, I'm pretty sure that the Lakers will be running it back with this big 3 intact next season. When asked about their team's success, or lack thereof, they all pointed the finger at injuries. So it seems they're all confident that they can make it work when healthy. Next season's success will come down to the following. The front office surrounding this big 3 with younger, more athletic role players, and more consistent shooters. Finding a head coach that can make it work on offense with 3 stars that all thrive at getting to the paint. Russell Westbrook finding his role in the offense very early on. AD being able to play 80% of the regular season and going into the postseason healthy. And LeBron still being LeBron. What's crazy is that the last factor I just said is probably the most important. Because at age 37, LeBron James is still carrying this team. He just finished the season with a career high in points per game at 37. Even though he's damn near 40, this Lakers team will go as far as LeBron takes them.